Hi everybody, today we're going to talk about carbohydrates. So my name is Elsa, I'm a registered dietitian here at Dynamix, and I'm going to tell you all about carbs and what they are and what they do to help you and how to have too many or too little or just enough. So today we're going to cover carbs, what they do in our body. Let me move over there. What happens when you don't eat any, and what happens when you eat way too many, and what should you do at the end of the day? Where should you have none or some or just the right amounts? So a carb is one of three macronutrients. Macronutrients are substances that the body needs in large quantities that provide us calories. Protein, fat, and carbs are all three macronutrients. Carbs are made of sugar, blocks of sugar. Think of a train and think of how each individual part of the train is linked up. So if we have just one little part by itself, that's one sugar unit. One unit by itself will give us fructose, glucose, or galactose. Two units linked together, or different combinations of those one units, can give us sucrose or lactose. These small 1 or 2 unit fragments are quickly absorbed into the bloodstreams, and they have this sweet taste. That's where we think of sugar. When we put lots of units together, we get starches and fibers. They're absorbed more slowly because the body has to go and break down each individual link to absorb those units. Fibers are actually not broken down at all and pass through the body completely linked together, which gives us other kinds of benefits. So where do we find carbs? Foods that contain carbs are grains and cereals, bread, potatoes, pasta, rice, couscous, quinoa, bulgur, millet, farro. Vegetables like potatoes, corn, squash, peas, carrots, turnips, parsnips. Think of root vegetables that come from inside the ground. And of course, we have our simple sugars, our small carbs that are sugar, maple syrup, everything that tastes sweet, soda, fruit juices, dairy products do have some carbs in them. So what do carbs do in the body? Carbs are brain food. They are the main fuel used by the brain. The brain uses 120 grams of carbohydrates by itself every single day. And the muscles and the rest of the body use carbs too. Carbs are the main fuel that we like for each individual cell. We all start with a glucose molecule and we end up with energy molecules. That's what every cell runs off of. We can run off of other fuels. It's possible. We have other systems in place, but the most preferred, the most efficient way to get energy in the body is to use carbs. When we exercise, carbs are the first thing that we get rid of, the first thing that we use. And then, like I said, dietary fiber is really important for digestive health. It helps keep bowel movements normal. It helps keep the whole digestive system running smoothly and running correctly. So now that you know what they are and what they do in your body, what should we talk about with this keto diet thing? This keto diet thing is when you don't eat any carbs at all. We're going to explain why in a second. Statistically, 4% of Canadians are actually on the keto diet, but 27% of Quebecers have never heard of the keto diet. So maybe it's a little bit newer here in Quebec, but 4% of Canadians are following it. This number may have increased in the past year. This is data from 2020. What do we do when we cut out carbs, when we don't go on keto? So in the first 24 hours, we use up all of our carb reserves that are stored in the form of glycogen in the liver and muscles. This is also using up all the water. So every time we store carbs, we have to store water with it. They kind of go together. So the really fast weight loss at the beginning of the keto diet is water. It's the water that comes out from those carb reserves. And then as we have no more carbs in our system and we're not eating any, we have to start switching the fuels because we do need carbs to make the whole body work. So it's got to start scrambling for other stuff. Protein can be converted into carbohydrates. Fat cannot be converted into carbohydrates. So the body will start going through its protein stores in the form of muscle to make some carbs, and it's going to go through its fat stores to make an alternative fuel. This causes weight loss. The mobilization of fat stores is what causes weight loss in the long term in the keto diet. Being in a state where you're constantly making energy from fat stores is called ketosis because we're making something called ketones. Ketones are not as efficient as an energy use in the body, and the brain really doesn't like using them too much. So the brain is more going to go towards those protein stores in the muscles and break those down to make glucose. What happens when we eat too many carbs? So if we think of when we absorb a carb in our digestive system, it goes from the digestive system into the bloodstream. You can think of this as like the roads, and they need to get inside the cells, which we can think of the houses. So how do we get from in our car on the road to inside a house? Well, we need a key. Insulin is a hormone that plays the role of the key. It helps open the door to let the sugars and the carbs into the cells so that they can be used to make energy. But what happens when we're constantly having a lot of sugar in the bloodstream? We are constantly knocking on the door of the house And after a while, the insulin stops working. The key stops working. Either we have too many keys, or some people have a genetic predisposition where they don't make the key. They don't make any insulin. Either way, we get an accumulation of blood sugars in the blood. We have too many cars on the road and not enough parked in driveways in the house. So this can cause issues. This is what we call diabetes. It's either prediabetes or diabetes. Additionally, having high sugar diets has been linked to weight gain, not just because of the amount of calories, but because the amount of sugar in your body causes interference with hunger hormones. And by having a lot of sugar, we're displacing or not leaving room for any of the healthier, more whole grain and fibrous foods that would actually help reverse the effects of some of those high sugars. So it's kind of a double whammy there. We're getting too much of the bad thing and not enough of the good thing. So what should you do? Should you go keto, or should you eat a lot of carbs? In general, you should always keep it balanced. As we know, carbs are really important in the body. We don't want to have none at all, but clearly having too many is negative as well. So we want to keep it balanced. Instead of thinking of carbs as good and bad, think of them as often, sometimes, and rarely. We want the often ones the most possible. We don't have to have it every meal, every single day. It doesn't need to be the healthiest carbs at every single meal. We want it most of the time, 70, 80% of the time. This will help health, energy, and concentration. Making a couple simple switches can really go a long way, but you also don't have to give up your favorite muffins and pastries and white bread for the rest of your life. Just make it a minority of the time. So what do I mean with all of this? Carbs to eat often. Often carbs are all of your whole grains, whole wheat bread, whole wheat pasta, whole wheat English muffins, whole wheat wraps, beans and lentils, which are also a good source of protein, steel-cut oats, buckwheat, quinoa, farro, millet, whole grain rice, black rice, wild rice. All of those are the ancient grains, as we like to call them. Potatoes are a really good source. Sweet potatoes are a really good source. Taro, which is also a sort of potato, great source. Fresh and frozen fruit, corn, barley, all of those are really great often foods. Sometimes foods are carbs that we can either have in smaller quantities more often, or larger quantities less often. So you can do a little bit of any of these foods more or less daily, or you can do a larger portion maybe once or twice a week. So these, we're talking more of the more convenient flavored foods, white foods. So anything that's white bread, white pasta, white muffins, white wraps, white bagels, couscous, white rice, granola, crackers, granola bars, instant oats, flavored yogurt, pancakes, carby foods. And then finally, we have the rarely foods. These we're going to try to have a couple times a month. This doesn't mean you never have them, or you only have your one day a year, like your birthday, where you have your birthday cake. No, a couple times a month, 1 or 2 or 3. We got flavored milk, we got sugar, we got fruit juices, we got chips and fries, we got donuts, we got cookies, we got pastries, muffins, and cakes. So we got a lot of those sugary foods. We don't want to cut them out completely. We just want to make them on the rarer side. So there you go. You shouldn't have too many carbs. You shouldn't have no carbs at all. You should kind of have a variety of different carbs and change up the times that you eat them, change up the quantities that you eat them. As always, we really like to show our work. Here are a bunch of links that you can pull from if you want more information. Our DMs are always open if you have a question, or you can give us a call, send us an email. We're always here for you. I hope you enjoyed this presentation and that you found it helpful, and we'll see you next time.